y'all doing? Today we're going to go over the Unit 5 study guide. Uh, First, number one, it says which expression is equivalent to r squared minus 36. So you need to look and see, since this is a binomial and we cannot take out the greatest common factor, you need to check and see if it's a special case. So is the first term perfect square? Yes, because all letters with even exponents are perfect squares. Are they subtracting? Yes. And is the last term a perfect square? Yes. So since those three things are true, this is a difference of two perfect squares. So your answer is going to be the square root of the first one plus the square root of the second one times the square root of the first one minus the square root of the second one. So the answer is C. Okay. Now number two, same deal. You can't, this is not a trinomial, so you need to look and see if it's a special case. Is 16 a perfect square? Yes, it is. Is x squared a perfect square? Yes, because that too. And is 144 a perfect square? Yes, it is. And are they subtracting? Yes. So this is a difference of perfect squares. So your answer is going to be the square root of 16x squared, which is 4x, plus the square root of 144, which is 12. And then the same thing again, except the minus sign. Okay, so remember, they're going to be the same terms in both set of parentheses, one with the plus and one with the minus when it's a difference of squares. Okay, number three, they give us the area of a rectangular garden. Okay, so we write down the form area of a rectangle formula, length times width. Okay, we replace the area with what they gave us, and then we plug in any other information that they told us. They told us that the width is x plus 2. And they asked us to find the length. So to do that, we get L by itself. So the opposite of multiplying by x plus 2 is dividing by x plus 2. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. Okay. Now the way it looks right here, this trinomial on top, you can't factor x plus 2 into x squared plus 6x plus 8. But understand, for all word problems on the test, you eventually, sometime in your problem before you finish, you have to factor. So we're going to factor this trinomial in the second step, and that's going to change to x plus 4 times x plus 2 divided by x plus 2. Now if we look at it, it's a lot easier to see what happens. X plus 2 divided by x plus 2 makes 1. So on the left side of the equal sign, we just have x plus 4. On the right side of the equal sign, we have an L because these x plus 2's right here cancel. So the length is x plus 4. That's our final answer. Okay, same kind of problem. They gave us a rectangular window and they gave us the area. So again, we write down our area formula. Length times width. Now, did they tell us the area? They did, so we plug that in. Did they give us the length? No. And did they give us the width? No. So when we factor the left side of the equal sign, that is going to be our length and our width. So we factor this by doing arc it, stick it. This changes to x plus 25 times x minus 1. Okay. Now we have to stick our 5 that we took away in the beginning back in our problem. 5 goes into 25 5 times, so that's x plus 5. And then 5 doesn't go into 1, so we put it in the beginning, put it in front. Excuse me. Okay, now, so we have x plus 5 times 5x minus 1 is our length and our width. We don't know which one is which, though. We don't know which one is the length and which one is the width. So we're going to use what they gave us next to determine that. It asks us, what is the length of the window if x equals 5? Well, if x equals 5, we can find out what number that gives us. 5 plus 5 is 10. And 5 times 5 minus 1 is 24. Okay. We still don't know which one the length and the width, which one is the length and which one is the width. But if we keep reading, it says the width is shorter than the length. So which one of these numbers is the smallest? 10. So that means 10 is the width and the length is 24. They asked us to find the length. So 24 is our final answer. Make sure you always give us what we ask for. We know that we're happy that you found the length and the width, but we just asked you for the length. So make sure you designate which one of your answers is the length. And then number 5, same kind of problem again. Area equals length times width. We're going to factor this area. And now they ask us to find the length of the pool if y equals 8. So again, just like the other problem, we plug in 8 for y, we get 11 for this one. We plug in 8 for y here, and we get 3 for this one. Okay, so this is our length and our width. We just don't know which one is the length and which one is the width. So it says the length is the longest side. That's the last part of that problem that they give us. So since the length is the longest side, 11 is bigger than 3, so our length is 11. Okay. For 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you need to factor completely. That means find the greatest common factor and then divide that into the original problem. And all of that is going to be required to get your answer correct. So for number 6, we know that our greatest common factor is 3 a squared b squared. Because the largest number that goes into 3, 6, and 12 is 3. The smallest letter that all three have in common is a squared, right here. And all three terms have a b in it, but the b with the smallest exponent is b squared right here. So that's why our greatest common factor is 3 a squared b squared. So now we go divide that into the original problem, and that tells us what's going to be inside our parentheses. Okay, so 3 divided into 3 one time. You don't have to write the 1. You can if you want to. 8 to the 5th divided by 8 to the 2nd. We have to subtract those. So 5 minus 2 is 3. So we get a to the 3rd power. 3 minus 2 is 1. We get b to the 1st power. Plus 3 goes into 6 2 times. A to the 3rd divided by a squared is a to the 1st. B squared divided by b squared is 1, so you don't have to write it. 3 goes into negative 12, negative 4 times. A squared divided by a squared is 1, so you don't have to write it. And b to the 10th divided by b squared, we're going to subtract the exponents. 10 minus 2 is 8, so that's b to the 8th power. Okay. Make sure you put your greatest common factor outside your parentheses. I'm going to put it back here because I didn't leave enough room in the front. Okay, but make sure you have your greatest common factor times some stuff on the inside of the parentheses, because I have now factored, and factoring is the same as dividing. I've divided our original problem into a greatest common factor times another factor that's in parentheses. For number 7, our greatest common factor is 5x. So that's what we're going to pull out. And then we're going to divide 5x into 15x to the 5th, which gives us 3x to the 4th. We divide 5x into negative 10x to the 7th. That's going to give us negative 2x to the 6th. And then we're going to divide 5x into 30x, which gives us just plain 6. Okay. So our divided factor answer is 5x times 3x to the 4th minus 2x to the 6th plus 6. And again, to find out if our answer is correct, we just multiply this out. If I get my original problem, I'm correct. That's 15x to the 5th, so that's right. That's negative 10x to the 7th, so that's correct. And that's 30x to the first power, that's correct. So I know my answer is right. Number 8, greatest common factor. The largest number that goes into all three of these terms is just plain 4. Okay? Do all of these terms have b's in them? No, so that's why we don't have a b in our greatest common factor. So now to find out what's in the parentheses, we divide our GCF into our original problem. That's going to be 4b to the 7th minus 9b to the 4th minus 1. Okay. And again, we multiply our answer all the way out to see if it works. And I usually make time to do this, regardless of what's going on. I like to make sure my problems are correct before I move on. That's 16b to the 7th. That's negative 36b to the 4th. And then that's going to be negative 4. So my answer is correct. Our greatest common factor is number 9 is 6x to the 3rd. This is a different way that I write it. If this helps you, I'd advise you to do this. I write the original problem down and then I just write the GCF on the bottom. Then I go divide. I have my GCF on the outside. 6x to the 3rd goes to the 6x to the 3rd one time. Plus 7 times 6 is 42, so that's going to be 7. And x6 divided by x3 is x3. So that is my final answer. I multiply it out to see if it's right. 6x to the 3rd times 1 is 6x to the 3rd. 7 times 6 is 42. x3 times x3 is x6. So I know my answer is correct. Okay, now keep in mind that there are ones as the ones are the coefficients if you don't see them. It's understood to be a 1. So the largest number that goes into 1 and 1 is 1. Do both of those terms have h's in them? Yes. And what's the h with the smallest exponent? It's h20. So that is our greatest common factor. And then we divide. h25 divided by h20 is h5. And then h20 divided by h20 is 1. So that's how I got h to the 5th power for the first term by dividing these two. And then I divided those two and got 1. Okay, now for these, this is a trinomial, so we factor these. We know that we're going to get 2 binomials for our answer. We use the big X. We're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to equal the last term and also add to equal the middle term. So our first letters are going to be X. 2 letters that multiply to equal X squared. Those are both 2 X's. And 2 numbers that multiply to equal 21. Let's see, 21 and 1 equals 21. But does that add to equal 10? No. So I can't use that. So I try 2 other numbers. 7 times 3 is 21. Is 7 plus 3 10? Yes, it is. So I know those are my 2 numbers. Plus 3 and plus 7. Okay, now how do I make sure this is right? Multiply it out using FOIL or box, and if I get my original problem, I know I did it right. So I get x squared, 7x plus 3x is 10x, and then 21. So that was my original problem, so I know my answer right here is correct. Here we have a swimming pool, a rectangular pool, and they give us the area. They give us the length of the pool and ask us to find the width. So this is just like the word problems we did in numbers 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to factor this trinomial. Now we know to get w by itself, we need to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. What we do to one side, we must do to the other, and then cancel what we can cancel. X minus 5 divided by x minus 5 is just 1. So I'm left with x minus 4 equals w. Number 13, we have to factor. So we're going to do arc it, stick it, because the first number is bigger than 1. That's going to change our problem into this. It's going to be y and y. Two numbers that multiply to equal negative 36 but add equal negative 5. It's going to be minus 9 and plus 4. And then we got to stick our 9 back in our problem that we arced at first. Okay. We call that part arc it, and we call this part sticking it back in. So 9 goes into 9 one time, so we left with y minus 1 for the first binomial. 9 doesn't divide into 4, so we just put it in the front. And then we multiply our answer to make sure it's correct, using FOIL, box, or the distributive property. Okay. It does work when I multiply it out, so I circle my answer and I'll move on to the next problem. Always check your problems to make sure they're right if you have time. Alright, same process for this one. We do arc it, stick it, because this number is bigger than 1. The first term is bigger than 1. We're going to rewrite our problem. The only thing that changes is the first term and the last term. The middle term stays the same. Two letters that multiply to equal m squared are 2 m's. And two numbers that multiply to equal 56 but add to equal 18. Those two numbers should be 14 and 4. 14 times 4 is 56, and 14 plus 4 is 18. So now, don't forget, we got to stick our 7 back in our problem. Before you're done, you always got to put the 7 back in. 7 goes into 14 two times, so we're left with m plus 2 for the first binomial. And 7 doesn't go into 4, so you just put it in the front. And again, we use box or FOIL to multiply this out to see if it works. It does. Circle my answer and I'll move on. And number 15, this is just like 3, 4, and 5 and one of the other word problems that we did. Okay, they tell us we have a rectangular garden, and they tell us the area is 11y squared minus 29y minus 12. Okay, they ask us to find the dimensions of the garden. Well, how do you find the area of something? A rectangle specifically. It's length times width. Okay, so we factor this out, and that gives us the length and the width. So we do the arc it. We factor this. And then we stick our 11 back in our problem. Okay, so we have our length and our width. Okay, so they ask for the dimensions, so you write, so these are the dimensions. These are the length and the width. Okay. Now, In the next problem, they say using the information from number 15, what are the exact dimensions of the garden? Meaning we gotta get a number answer. So we just take our answer from the other problem because this is an extension of the problem we just did. We know that's either the length or the width, or these are the dimensions. We know that. Okay. We just plug in 5 in place for y. 11 times 5 is 55. 55 plus 4 is 59. So that's one of our dimensions. And then the other one, 5 minus 3 is 2. So that's our other dimension. So our two dimensions are 59 and 2. And then the bonus, and they didn't ask us to find, just for the length or just for the width because we don't know which one the length is and which one the width is. It doesn't matter in this problem because they just said find the two exact dimensions. We did that. And then the bonus, they ask us to how many feet will the gardener need to go around the perimeter of the garden? So if our garden is a rectangle, you find the perimeter of any shape by adding up all the sides. Okay, so we know the length is 59, we're going to say, and the width is 2. You know the opposite sides of rectangles are equal, so that means the opposite 59 side is 59 and opposite 2 side is 2. To find the perimeter, you just add up all the sides. 59 plus 59 plus 2 plus 2. That tells us the perimeter in any kind of shape. And we add those together and we get 122 for our final answer for our perimeter. Okay? So no matter what the shape, we add up all the sides to find the perimeter. So I hope this study guide helps out. Good luck on the test.